Have you found yourself explaining something over and over and wondering whether it was you who wasn't clear or whether it was that the person you were speaking to couldn't understand? Well, it's not just speaking, of course, it's writing or whatever form of communication that you choose, but clarity is one of the most important elements. Of course, as you know, I focus on clarity, confidence, impact, and authenticity in all of my work, and especially around communication and storytelling. But how can we be clear? And what are the 3 key steps to help us to get clear in our communication? I'm going to share that with you in this video. Hi guys, Calvin again. 3 key tips to get clear in our communication. Clarity, something easy to say, but not always easy to realize. The first step then towards greater clarity in our communication is to develop self-awareness. Some research out there on the internet suggests that we have upwards of 50,000 thoughts per day. Psychology Today says up to 49% of that is actually wasted on mind wandering. So can you imagine that up to 25,000 thoughts per day already that you've had were absolutely pointless waste? Okay, the absolute detail of how many thoughts we have a day is not that important. What is more important, of course, is what is the noise preventing us from accessing? And that noise is like sediment in the water. And it doesn't allow the crystal clear water to reveal to us the contents of the stream. And likewise, in our own minds, we do have something there that we want to say, something coherent, something cohesive, but is not really clear because it's not clear inside. So if you recall, all of my work focuses on 2 dimensions. Internal, what's going on inside of us, and external, how we're showing up in the world, how we're representing our message, how we're communicating, and how we're just being outwardly. So we need to work on both the internal and external dimensions so that they come together to form a whole. So self-awareness is the first key towards getting that degree of clarity, and mindfulness, if you're familiar with my work, is one of the key elements that I think should be woven through all of our life in order to get that clarity. Mindfulness meditation helps to still the mind, helps to silence the noise, and helps us to develop that greater insight. And of course, the key word we're looking for here is clarity. If you need to look at some of my other videos on how meditation can help you, please click the links associated with this video. The second thing I want to talk about to get clarity in the way we communicate, the second point is message. What is it you want to say? Now, the message sits on the dividing line between the internal world and the external world. What's going on within you, and then what is it you want to express out into the world? The message then has 2 components. It has what I like to call an essence message. This is the really firmly fixed internal dimension of what it is that you actually have, clearly speaking from beyond all the chorus of noise that we talked about. That is putting sediment into your stream of consciousness, stream of thoughts. And then the external dimension of the message, because remember the message sits on the border between internal and external, is your key message. The key message, I like to refer to that as the outward expression of your essence message, what it is you want the world to know. So the second step then, we want to take the second key to really getting clarity in our communication is the message. Work on the message. The third key then to clarity in your communication is simplicity. Now we know that simplicity and mindfulness go hand in hand, and if we want to really cut the noise down, we need to eradicate all of the unnecessary things. And this is one of the key elements of simplicity. So simplicity can be broken down into 2 parts. The first part would be organization. How do you want to organize your messaging and your communication so that it is simple? Not just simple for the listener, but simple for you to understand as well. Sometimes people overcomplicate the way they try to organize their thoughts and their messages. And of course, then it becomes very complicated, right? So what we want to do is we want to get more simplified by organizing our messages into clear, distinct ways. And I like to use Carmine Gallo's message map, which I find extremely helpful to segment our messaging into 3 core areas. Message 1, message 2, message 3, which underpins, of course, a key message. The second part of the simplicity is the distillation. Stephen King, who some of you may have heard of, this famous author, of course, he's a very common household name, but not everybody might have heard of him. He describes the creation of the story, the creation of the work, the content, whatever it is you want to share, as initially just for you. And that's where you put everything on the page. But of course, the editing process, the distillation process, the simplification through editing out what is not needed is really then for the audience, for the listener, for the reader. So the third step then finally is, in summary, is simplicity. And that is all about your organization and your distillation process. So anytime you want to communicate then going forward, doesn't matter the medium. It doesn't matter if you're speaking, if you're writing, if you're making a song. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we want to know these 3 things. So we want to have self-awareness. We want to build our degree of self-awareness so that we can get clear on what's coming out of us without the sediment. That helps to bring the clarity that we need. And I believe that mindfulness is a key component to helping get to that place of awareness. Step 2, then, of course, is the message. And if you remember, the message is broken down into 2 sections. The first section is the internal message, which is the essence message. What is it you really stand for? What is your why? That why goes with you wherever you go. And then the other part is where we translate that essence message into a key message in a way that it can connect with your audience. So I like to see the message as sitting on the border between the internal dimension, what's going on inside of us, and the external dimension, how we're going to show up in the world. And then finally, the third key is simplicity. And the simplicity is all about making sure that we can truncate our comms so it doesn't have too much waffle in there. And it is all down to 1, the distillation process, and 2, the organization process. So if you can do those things, then you will have 3 keys in the bag to much greater clarity in your communication. Thank you so much for watching my video. Why not check out my courses on academy.calvinniles.com, link just below.